Take a slow, deep breath. Let your shoulders soften, and let your eyelids grow a little heavier with each exhale. The world around you is quiet now. Imagine the gentle rhythm of your own breathing, like waves on a still, moonlit shore. Each inhale brings in calm. Each exhale lets go of the day. Feel your hands loosen, your jaw unclench, your thoughts begin to drift, as if you are slowly sinking into the warm hush of candlelight. Now, our story tonight begins. Our story begins in a time long ago, in a small stone village tucked between soft green hills, where cobbled streets curve like silver ribbons beneath the moon. It is the season of late summer, and the air carries the scent of ripe apples and distant rain. At the end of one narrow street stands a humble apothecary shop. Its wooden sign swings gently in the night breeze, painted with faded gold letters that read, "Remedies for the body and the spirit." The shop is quiet, except for the soft hiss of a candle. Through its little window, a glow flickers over shelves lined with jars, hundreds of them filled with herbs, powders, and tiny miracles. Some hold dried lavender, some glisten with powdered pearls, some shimmer faintly as if light itself were trapped within. Inside, the apothecary, an elderly woman named Isolde, moves slowly through the warm shadows. Her hands, lined and graceful, reach for each bottle as though greeting an old friend. She hums a quiet tuna song once taught to her by her grandmother, who too was a healer when the world was even quieter, even slower. Listen to her voice, low and kind, like the sound of a stream flowing over smooth stones. It fills the air, mingling with the crackle of the small hearth in the corner. The apothecary's shop smells of lavender, sage, and a hint of honey. The scent is soft and old, like parchment and wildflowers after rain. You can almost feel the cool stone beneath your fingertips, the warmth of the fire brushing against your skin. Outside, a night breeze sighs through the ivy, creeping up the walls. Isolde moves to a wooden table where small brass scales sit beside a bowl of crushed rose petals. She measures each petal with care, adding a few drops of rose water that catch the candlelight like tiny stars. She stirs slowly, whispering words of gratitude to the plants she's gathered. In medieval times, healers believed that every scent carried a kind of spirit, a quiet force that soothed both body and mind. Lavender to calm the restless, sage to clear the thoughts, honey to heal wounds both seen and unseen. She smiles as she works, because tonight she prepared a special remedy, not for sickness, but for dreams, a soft, sleeping draught made from violet, mint, and a trace of pearl powder. It is meant for a traveler who came earlier that evening, a weary knight who could not rest since returning from war. Outside, the wind lifts the scent of herbs through the open door, and for a moment, the whole street smells like calmness itself. A cat stretches on the windowsill, its fur shimmering in the candlelight, and purrs softly as though in agreement with the night. Isolde pours her mixture into a tiny glass vial. The liquid inside glows faintly blue, like moonlight caught in water. She corks it gently and holds it to her chest, whispering a blessing. May dreams come softly, and the heart remembers peace. Then she sets the vial beside the sleeping herbs, and sits near the hearth with a cup of warm honey milk. The fire sighs and crackles. The flames dance like storytellers, painting the walls with gold. She leans back in her wooden chair and lets the warmth seep into her bones. Her eyes close for a moment, and she drifts into memory, to to the time she first learned the language of sense. Her teacher had said, "The body listens to fragrance, even when the mind cannot." A scent can be a lullaby, a prayer, a promise of comfort. Isolde smiles at that memory now, and you can feel the room breathe with hers low, deep, gentle. Each breath she takes seems to calm the very air around her. The clock on the shelf ticks softly, not with hurry, but with kindness. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Each sound reminds you to slow down, to outside. The night deepens. Rain begins to fall lightly, tapping on the roof like fingers on silk. It is a soft rain, the kind that sings rather than storms. Isolde rises, goes to the door, and looks out into the silver mist. Lanterns glow faintly along the street, their reflections trembling in puddles. The apothecary closes her eyes and listens. The rain, the cat's purr, the crackling fire all blend into one long, soothing breath. She returns to her table, takes a piece of parchment, and writes a small note for the knight who will come in the morning. Drink this under the stars. Let the scent guide you home. Then she places the vial beside the note and begins to tidy her shelves. Her fingers trace the labels: chamomile, valerian, myrrh, rose. Each one has a story, each one a whisper of centuries gone by. She pauses at a jar of lavender, uncorks it, and lets the fragrance fill the room again. It's as though the air itself exhales a soft, invisible sigh. The scent drifts toward you, wrapping you like a blanket of calm. Isolde sits once more by the hearth and begins to hum her grandmother's lullaby again. It's a tune that doesn't need words, a melody that belongs to anyone who's ever needed rest. Imagine yourself there beside her, the warmth of the fire on your skin, the scent of herbs around you, the sound of rain and soft humming blending into one gentle rhythm. You can almost feel the weight of a wool blanket across your shoulders, the softness of straw beneath your feet. With every breath, you sink deeper into stillness. Your thoughts become slower, quieter. The world outside the shop fades into a blur of soft sound and faint light. Isolde hums a little longer, then whispers softly, almost as if speaking to you. The body needs quiet, and the heart needs kindness. Let both find their rest tonight. Her voice trails into silence. Only the fire remains, crackling softly, casting slow shadows that sway like candle flames across the walls. Outside, the rain slows to a hush. The village sleeps, and inside the little apothecary, time itself seems to stop, as if the whole world has curled up beside the hearth and drifted into dreams. Take another deep breath now. Let the quiet warmth of this place fill your chest. You are safe, you are calm, you are resting deeply, completely. The scent of lavender lingers in the air, a gentle reminder that peace can be simple and sleep can be kind. The candle burns lower, the last spark fades to gold, and as you breathe, you drift softly, peacefully into dreams. Good night, traveler. The apothecary's whisper will keep you safe till morning. If these quiet tales are helping you drift off, a gentle like or a silent subscribe would mean the world. It helps this sleepy corner of the internet reach others who need a little calm too. I always wonder, where in the world are you listening from right now? If you're still awake, leave a whisper of a comment, maybe your say, and the time on your clock. It's a beautiful thing, this quiet little global gathering, all connected through stories and stillness. Now let's set the mood. Dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and get comfortable. Take a deep breath. in through the nose, out through the mouth. Let the weight of your body melt into comfort. Feel the world settle quietly around you, as if morning itself is holding its breath. Our story continues now, in the first pale hours of dawn. The rain has stopped. The cobbled street glistens beneath the touch of a gentle sunrise, each puddle a small mirror, reflecting the sky's tender gold. The village, still sleepy, hums with the faint promise of life. A rooster somewhere far away, the creak of a wooden door, the sigh of wind through ivy. At the corner, the apothecary's shop sits wrapped in quiet light. Smoke curls from its chimney, rising in soft spirals. The wooden sign still sways, whispering faintly with each passing breeze. Inside, Isolde wakes slowly. Her cat stretches on the hearthrug, the fire now only embers, glowing like the heart of dawn itself. She moves with the rhythm of habit come and unhurried, lighting a new candle, sweeping the floor, brewing a small pot of chamomile tea. Outside, footsteps echo on wet stone. A traveler approaches. The sound is careful, hesitant, like someone unsure if they truly belong in the waking world. It is the knight, his armor dull and spotted with rain, his shoulders heavy, not with battle now, but with the long ache of sleeplessness. For nights uncounted, he has dreamed of nothing. No peace, no faces, no sound, only the hollow hush that follows loss. He pauses at the apothecary door. The faint scent of lavender drifts out, and something inside him loosens. A memory, perhaps, or just the soft reminder of gentleness. He pushes open the door. A tiny bell chimes, sound so delicate it could be mistaken for a sigh. Isolde looks up, her eyes kind and knowing. "Good morning," she says softly, as though she's been expecting him all along. The knight bows his head. "Good morning, mistress. You left a note for me." She smiles faintly, motioning toward the small wooden counter. Upon it rests the glass vial, the one that glows faintly blue, like bottled moonlight. Beside it lies the folded parchment bearing her careful hand. He takes it gently, reading the words once more. "Drink this under the stars. Let the scent guide you home." He looks up, puzzled. "I am home," he murmurs, almost to himself. Isolde tilts her head. "Are you?" The question hangs in the air, soft but steady. He looks around the jars, the herbs, the flickering light, and for a moment he cannot tell whether he's standing in the morning or in memory. She pours him tea, fragrant with mint and honey. The warmth of the cup seeps into his cold hands. They sit by the hearth, and the world seems to pause for them. "You have not slept well," she says, not asking but knowing. He shakes his head slowly. "When I close my eyes, I see battle. When I open them, I see nothing at all. I've forgotten what peace feels like." Isolde listens, her gaze soft as linen. "The mind," she says, "is a restless bird. But even a bird sleeps when the forest grows still." She rises and goes to her shelves, her fingers gliding over the rows of jars, until she finds what she seeks, a small wooden box, carved with vines and stars. When she opens it, the room fills with a cool, sweet scent. Inside lies dried lavender, violet petals, and something silvery and fine. She sprinkles a pinch into his tea. "Stir it once, twice, 3 times. Drink," she whispers. He obeys. The taste is gentle floral, honeyed, soothing. The warmth slides through him, slowly quieting the places that have forgotten how to rest. Outside, the sun climbs higher. Golden light spills through the window, landing on shelves, glass, and the knight's weary face. He blinks, and for a moment he sees something strange, tiny motes of light drifting through the air like dust, yet alive, like whispers of dreams beginning to form. He closes his eyes. He hears her voice, distant now, soft as a lullaby. Let the body remember stillness. Let the heart remember home. And he begins to dream, not of war, but of water. A river winding through green hills. A child laughing by its edge. A horse grazing in a field. Every breath carries the scent of lavender. Every sound is gentle, kind. Isolde watches quietly, knowing this kind of sleep, the kind that is both rest and return. Time drifts. The fire hums low. The apothecary cat curls near the knight's boots. The morning light shifts to gold, then amber. When the knight wakes, the tea is gone, and Isolde sits beside him, reading from an old book. He feels different, lighter somehow, as if some invisible weight has been set down. She closes the book and looks at him. "You dreamed," she says. He nods. "I did. I think I saw my village before the war. I smelled the lavender fields. I heard my sister's voice." She smiles, her eyes shining. "Then you found your way home." He exhales, long and quiet. The world feels clearer now. The fire crackles softly. The cat stretches, and a bird sings outside the window. A song so pure it seems to come from the heart of morning itself. He rises, leaving a coin on the counter, but Isolde shakes her head. "Keep it," she says. "Sleep is payment enough." The knight bows. "Then I will remember your kindness." As he turns to go, she adds, "Take this." She hands him a small linen pouch tied with thread, inside lavender and pearl dust. When the world grows heavy again, breathe its scent. It will remind you that peace is not lost, only waiting. He thanks her softly and steps outside into the gentle light. The village is awake now. Children laugh in the square. A baker pulls fresh bread from the oven, and the air hums with quiet life. He stands for a moment, the little pouch pressed to his heart, and feels something unfamiliar, not the rush of courage, nor the ache of memory, but calm. Above, the church bell rings, slow and sweet. Each chime rolls through the morning air, as if blessing the day with stillness. Back inside the apothecary, Isolde watches through the window. She smiles faintly, then turns back to her shelves, her herbs, her soft songs. The candle flickers once, and the scent of lavender lingers, curling through the air like a whisper of peace. She hums again, the same lullaby as before, the one without words, the one that sounds like the hush between heartbeats. And as she hums, you feel your own breath fall into rhythm with hers. The fire's warmth drifts toward you, the gentle clink of glass, the soft brush of her gown as she moves, all of it weaving together like a spell of calm. Close your eyes now. You can almost smell the lavender again. Taste the honey. Feel the soft light of morning on your skin. Somewhere far away yet very near, a bell rings one last time. A reminder that you, too, have found your way home for the night. Sleep now, traveler. Rest easy. The apothecary keeps her promise. Her whisper is still with you, quiet, kind, forever soothing. Take a slow breath in. Let it fill your chest, gentle and deep. Now breathe out, slowly, as if you are releasing a handful of dandelion seeds into still air. Let your shoulders drop. Let the space behind your eyes grow quiet. There is nothing you need to do now but listen. Our story tonight begins in a time of stone walls and cobbled lanes, when candlelight was precious and the night sky was a map for dreamers. It begins in a small medieval village, cradled between hills green as glass. where the air smells of earth, rain, and bread just baked. And at the very heart of this village stands a shop, half stone, half timber, its door carved with tiny vines and stars. The sign above it sways gently in the morning breeze, its letters faded but still proud, Isolda's Remedies and Tonics. Inside, time moves differently. The moment you cross the threshold, you step into a world of scent and softness. Jars line the shelves, glass, clay, and brass, some filled with rose petals, others with dried herbs the color of dusk. Bundles of lavender hang from the rafters. Their fragrance is sweet and old as a memory. At the counter stands Isolda, a woman of perhaps 50 years, though her eyes carry the calm of someone who's lived 100. Her hands move gracefully steady, practiced, as she measures honey with a wooden spoon, mixing it with ground chamomile in a small bronze bowl. She hums while she works. Not a tune you'd recognize, but something older, a melody carried down through generations of healers, a song without words, soft as a heartbeat. Outside, a bell tolls once from the village church. Children laugh somewhere near the well. But here, in the apothecary, all is still. The air glows with the amber warmth of a single candle, and in its flame, tiny motes of dust drift like stars. Isolda pauses, holding her spoon above the bowl, watching honey spiral into gold. Her mind drifts backward to a time long before this shop, long before she was called Mistress Isolda by villagers in need. She remembers another room, smaller, darker, the scent of smoke and rosemary, the sound of rain on a thatched roof. Her mother's voice low, lilting, fills the memory. "Every plant has a purpose, my little one," she said, "even the ones that sting, especially those." Isolda had been only 10 then, barefoot in the mud, hair tangled with leaves. Her mother was the village healer before her, and though some called her wise woman, others whispered. They didn't understand, but that never stopped them from coming when fevers rose or babies cried through the night. Isolda would watch her mother gather herbs from the forest edge, yarrow for wounds, valerian for sleep, sage to cleanse the air when grief lingered too long. She would return home with her basket heavy and teach Isolda how to mix each one. "Smell them first," she'd say, pressing the herbs into her daughter's hands. "The scent tells you what they wish to do." Back in the present, Isolda smiles faintly at the memory. Her hands still remember the lessons her mother taught by candlelight. She looks around her quiet shop. Every jar is a memory, every scent a whisper from the past. A gentle knock breaks her thoughts. The door opens, and a young girl steps in, her cheeks pink from the morning air. "Good day, Mistress Isolda," she says, clutching a small basket. "My mother sent me some thyme and mint." The baby's caught a cough again. Isolda nods, smiling kindly. "Ah, little Elswith, come in. The air's chilly today." She moves to her shelf, pulling down 2 jars. As she opens them, a wave of scent fills the room. Sharp, clean, bright with life. The girl watches in silence as Isolda measures a pinch of each herb, placing them into a linen pouch. "You know," the apothecary murmurs, "in olden days, mint was thought to guard against sadness. They'd hang it by the door to keep good spirits." In Elswith's eyes widened. "Truly," Isolda chuckles softly, "truly. But it also helps a stubborn cough." She ties the pouch with string and hands it over. "Steep this in hot water. Let your mother breathe the steam with the child. And when the air smells sweet, say thank you to the herbs." The girl nods solemnly. as though she's been given a secret task. She curtsies, then leaves, the bell above the door chiming softly behind her. The shop grows quiet again. Only the whisper of the fire and the hum of bees outside the window remain. Isolde exhales, and for a moment she listens to her own breath, slow, even patient, a healer's breath. Sometimes, when she's alone, she speaks to her mother in stillness, as though her spirit lingers among the herbs. "I'm still listening, you know," she whispers softly now. "I still smell the leaves before I grind them, and somewhere, deep within the scent of sage, she imagines the faintest reply, a whisper like wind in dry grass, a reminder that love never really leaves." Outside, the clouds part, and sunlight spills across the table, turning jars into tiny worlds of color, amber, jade, rose, and gold. Isolde closes her eyes and breathes it in. The smell of herbs and honey, the hush of peace earned through years of care. This is her craft, her calling, her inheritance. And yet, there are secrets she has not spoken aloud for many years. Secrets of how she first learned to heal, not just the body, but the heart. Those memories lie waiting, quiet as roots beneath the soil, ready to bloom when the time is right. She pours herself a cup of chamomile tea and settles into her wooden chair by the hearth. Outside, the bells ring again, a soft, familiar rhythm, and the village moves through its morning, unaware that within this little shop an old story is beginning to stir awake once more. The day drifted by in a quiet rhythm, like the swing of a pendulum in a still room. After little Elswith left with her herbs, Isolde spent the morning tending to her shelves, rearranging jars so their labels faced, just so trimming the drying bundles of thyme above the window, and stirring a new mixture of balm for burns. She liked the hush of work, the soft scrape of pestle against mortar, the hum of bees outside, the occasional murmur of voices from the street. It was a kind of music only the patient could hear. By midday, a breeze slipped in through the open shutters. It carried the scent of wet earth from the night's rain and the faint sweetness of wild mint that grew near the stream. The air felt alive, stirring the hanging herbs so they brushed gently against one another with a sound like whispers. Isolde paused, wiping her hands on her apron, and listened. For a heartbeat, it seemed as if the air itself was holding its breath. Then came the sound of footsteps, outside, steady, deliberate, each one ringing softly against the cobblestones. She turned toward the door, just as a shadow fell across it. When the door opened, a man stepped inside, a traveler by the look of his cloak, though his boots were clean and his posture too careful for one long on the road. He held a small parcel wrapped in linen, sealed with lavender-colored wax. "Good day, mistress," he said, bowing slightly. "I've a message for Isolde, the healer." She nodded, her voice calm and kind. "You've found her." He placed the parcel on the counter, nodded again, and left without waiting for payment or reply. The door shut behind him with a soft click, and the bell above it chimed once, the sound thin and lingering. Isolde stared at the parcel for a long moment. The seal caught the light from the candle beside her, a simple mark pressed into pale purple wax. A single symbol she had not seen in many years. A circle of small leaves surrounding the letter A. Her breath caught quietly in her throat. The mark belonged to the Abbey of St. Auril, a place far to the south, known for its gardens and its healers. It was where her mother had learned before her, long ago, and it was where Isolde herself had once gone as a young woman. seeking both knowledge and silence. After her mother's passing, she touched the wax seal with one fingertip. Even through the linen, she could smell faint traces of lavender oil, the Abbey's signature scent. It brought back a rush of memory, the long corridors lined with tapestries, the hush of women singing psalms as they ground herbs, the coolness of the stone under her bare feet. She broke the seal. Inside lay a folded letter and something wrapped in soft cloth. The letter was written in a flowing hand she recognized at once Sister Amara, her old teacher. Dearest Isolde, it has been many seasons since word last passed between us. Time here flows slowly, yet it does not still the heart's longing for those we have taught and loved. The gardens are blooming again, but the scent of lavender is faint this year. Something has gone amiss in the fields, and the young ones are troubled. I remember your skill with fragrance, and your gift for hearing what flowers will not say aloud. If you can, come to us before the next moon wanes. There is an old matter I must speak of, one that concerns your mother, Swerk, and the lost art of scenting dreams. With affection and hope, Sister Amara of St. Auriel. Isolde read the words twice, slowly. The lost art of scenting dreams. She had not heard that phrase in decades. Her mother used to whisper of a forgotten practice, one that joined medicine with mystery, healing not through touch, but through scent, sound, and sleep. Her mother had once said, "Every soul breathes differently, my love. To heal the heart, you must learn the language of its breath." Isolde folded the letter with care, her fingers trembling just a little. Then she unwrapped the small cloth parcel. Inside was a dried sprig of lavender ordinary, except that its color had not faded with time. It was still vivid purple, still fragrant, as if freshly picked. She brought it close to her face and inhaled. The scent was sweet, but strange stronger than any lavender she had ever known. Beneath it was something else, faint but familiar, a note of honey and smoke, the same scent that had filled her mother's cottage when Isolde was a child. The air seemed to thicken around her, warm and humming. For just an instant, she felt the room tilt, and she was no longer standing in her apothecary, but standing at the edge of a memory. In her mind, she saw her mother kneeling in the garden at dusk, hands buried in lavender, her lips moving in silent prayer. The light fell soft on her hair, turning it silver at the edges. A gentle wind carried the fragrance of the flowers toward the house, where young Isolde stood watching. The memory faded like smoke. The apothecary returned. She opened her eyes and found her hands gripping the counter. Her heart beat a little faster than before. The lavender spring lay between her palms, perfectly still. "Mother," she whispered, "what secret did you keep?" Outside, the clouds began to gather again. The sky dimmed, and the smell of rain returned. The village bells rang for evening prayers, and people hurried home, their laughter and footsteps fading into the soft drizzle that followed. Isolde stayed standing in the dim light, the letter still before her. There was comfort in the thought of returning to the abbey, yet also a quiet unease. The past had a scent, to one not easily forgotten. She placed the lavender sprig in a small glass jar and sealed it. Then she went to the window, watching raindrops blur the street outside. Tomorrow, she decided, she would write to Sister Amara, but tonight, she would light a candle, brew tea with mint and honey, and let her mind drift gently through the years. As she moved about the shop, the air filled once more with the mingled scent of herbs and rain. The world outside grew darker, but within her little apothecary, warmth lingered, golden and patient. She sat by the hearth, the fire murmuring softly, and let herself listen to the rain. The steady rhythm of drops against the window lulled her thoughts into stillness. Perhaps, she thought, dreams are only memories trying to find their way home. And as her eyes grew heavy, the faint scent of lavender rose from the jar beside her, sweet, deep, and alive like a whisper, calling her gently back to where everything had begun. That night, the rain continued long after the bells fell silent. It was a soft rain, the kind that soothes the earth rather than scolds it, the kind that hums on rooftops and whispers against windows like an old lullaby. Inside her small apothecary, Isolde sat by the dying fire, her tea cooling beside her, the letter from Sister Amara folded neatly on the table. The jar that held the lavender sprig glowed faintly in the flickering candlelight, its shadow trembling along the wall. She should have gone to bed, she knew, but sleep had always been a strange companion to her, slow to arrive, quick to wander. So she stayed by the fire, half watching the flames, half watching her thoughts drift and gather like mist. She reached for the jar and lifted it gently. The lavender inside still smelled of summer and sunlight, and something older, something that did not belong to this night or this world. She uncorked it, and the fragrance unfurled like a sigh, filling the air with sweetness so soft it almost had sound. As she breathed it in, her eyelids grew heavier. The room began to blur around the edges. The steady tick of her wall clock slowed, deepened, and finally faded. And then she was no longer in her chair. She stood in a field of lavender, under a sky brushed with dusk. The rose stretched endlessly before her, violet and gold in the last of the light. The air was warm and humming with bees, though she could not see them. Somewhere nearby, water ran slow and musical. Isolde looked down and saw that her hands were young again. The lines had smoothed, the veins softened. Her apron was clean, the same she had worn when she was 15, when she had followed her mother through the meadows at harvest time. She turned slowly, and there just ahead in the field her mother was kneeling among the lavender, her long brown hair streaked with gray, her fingers brushing the blossoms as if listening for their secrets. "Mother," Isolde whispered. The woman looked up. Her eyes were kind, full of laughter, and something deep, something endless. She smiled as if she had been waiting. "You've come back," she said softly. "The flowers were calling you." Isolde took a hesitant step forward. I don't understand. Are you real?" Her mother's voice was like the sound of warm wind through grass, as real as you remember, as real as scent and memory can make me. She stood and held out her hand. Isolde took it, feeling the warmth of skin and the faint tremor of heartbeat. Together they walked through the lavender rose, their fingers brushing against the flowers. The scent rose around them in waves, sweet, clean, and bright, but beneath it was something deeper, a pulse, a rhythm, as if the earth itself was breathing with them. Her mother spoke again, her tone quiet, tender. "You have done well, Isolde. The village is safe in your hands. But you have forgotten the other half of our gift. The other half, Isolde. I heal the sick, mix the balms, tend the births. What else is there?" Her mother smiled. "The heart, my child. You mend the body, but the heart has its own wounds. The old art teaches how to heal them through scent and sound, through the space between waking and dream." Isolde frowned slightly. "You mean the scenting of dreams? Sister Amara wrote of it." Her mother nodded. "It is older than the abbey, older than even the first healers. It came from the time when people listened to flowers as they would to a friend. Each plant holds a memory, a song. The healer learns to listen, then to guide that song into sleep. That is how dreams become medicine. They walked on. The sky darkened to indigo. The first stars appeared, faint and trembling. Somewhere in the distance, a bell tolled once, deep and low. "Can I learn it again?" Isolde asked. "I've forgotten the way." Her mother paused. "You never lost it. You only stopped believing that dreams can be healed." Isolde felt her throat tighten. "But I can't see the dreams of others. I can't touch what I can't reach." Her mother's eyes softened. "Then you must first touch your own. Go where your heart last felt its wound. There you will remember." Before Isolde could ask more, the scent around them changed. The sweetness of lavender deepened into something sharp, earthy like rain on iron. The sky above rippled as though stirred by invisible hands. Her mother's form began to fade, dissolving into mist and light. "Wait," Isolde cried. "Where do I go? What should I do?" Her mother's voice floated back, faint but sure. "Follow the fragrance. It will lead you." And then she was gone. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of lavender and something darker, smoke, perhaps, or the memory of fire. The field shimmered, blurred, and the sound of bees grew louder, merging with the beating of her own heart. When Isolde opened her eyes, she was back in her chair by the hearth. The candle had burned almost to its end, the flames small and golden. The jar of lavender lay open on the table beside her, though she could not remember setting it down. The scent still hung in the air, rich and full. She pressed a hand to her chest. Her pulse was steady but strong. Was it only a dream? Or had her mother truly come to her through the fragrance of the abbey's lavender? She looked toward the shelves where her jars waited, silent and glimmering. In the hush of the room, she could almost hear them whispering tiny patient voices carried on scent and memory. She rose slowly, the last of the candlelight dancing on her face. On the table, the lavender sprig shimmered faintly, as though moonlight pulsed within it. "Follow the fragrance," her mother had said. Isolde closed her eyes once more and breathed in deeply. Beneath the lavender's sweetness, she caught a hint of something else's thread of smoke, like incense from the abbey's chapel. She smiled softly. Tomorrow, she will write back to Sister Amara. But soon, perhaps very soon, she would pack her herbs, close her little shop for a while, and follow that scent wherever it led. Outside, the rain faded into silence. The first bird of dawn stirred in the dark. And as Isolde finally drifted into real sleep, the faintest sound of bees returned gentle, distant, like a promise carried through time. Morning came slowly to the village, brushing its light across the rooftops like a shy visitor. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets wet and glistening, reflecting the pale gold of dawn. Isolde stirred in her small bed, the memory of her lavender dream lingering like a soft hum beneath her skin. She rose quietly, careful not to disturb the peaceful hush of her home, and wrapped herself in a cloak as light as mist, readying herself for the day ahead. In the apothecary, the air smelled of herbs and lingering smoke from last night's candle. Isolde moved with deliberate calm, checking her jars one by one, caressing each glass with the gentlest touch. She knew she could not leave the village without preparing for the journey. The small potions she carried needed to be compact and safe: balms for cuts, teas for sleep, and a few small vials of the special scents her mother had taught her to blend. Before she left, she walked slowly through the village, pausing at each doorway where she knew familiar faces would peek out. She spoke softly to old Tomas, whose knees ached in the mornings, and handed him a small sachet of mint for his dreams. To little Ellsworth, she gave a drop of rosewater to dab on the pillow before sleep. Each gesture was quiet and deliberate, a kind of farewell lullaby in itself. The villagers nodded or smiled, too accustomed to Isolda's gentle presence to ask why she traveled now, and that gave her peace. By mid-morning, she stood at the edge of the village, looking down the winding cobblestone road that led south. The sky was pale, dotted with clouds that moved lazily as if reluctant to hurry. The scent of rain lingered faintly in the air, mingling with the soft perfume of her herbs. She adjusted her cloak around her shoulders and took the first step along the path. Each footfall was cushioned by moss and soft puddles, the rhythm of her walking echoing in a quiet, calming heartbeat. The road curved gently along the stream that ran near the village's outskirts. Here, the trees bent low, their branches brushing against one another, creating a soft, rustle-like whispered secrets. Isolde paused for a moment, inhaling the mixture of wet wood, moss, and lavender from her bundle. She imagined her mother kneeling in a field like this, teaching her the art of listening to wind, to leaf, to flower. The memory brought warmth to her chest. As she continued, the village receded behind her, and the countryside opened into rolling hills. She passed a small stone bridge, worn smooth by centuries of travelers, and she paused to watch the water ripple and swirl. A fish leaped silently through the current, its movement almost dreamlike, and Isolde smiled, feeling the same quiet pulse of life that had so often filled her dreams. Along the way, she came upon a shepherd boy tending a few sleepy sheep. He was young, with eyes like polished chestnut, and he greeted her with a soft, hesitant nod. She returned the gesture and offered a small vial of lavender water. "For peaceful dreams," she whispered, her voice barely louder than the wind. The boy accepted it with wide, trusting eyes and a shy smile before leading his flock along the path that curved into a distant valley. The journey was slow, measured, and almost meditative. Isolde let her mind drift as her feet carried her onward. She recalled snippets of her past, her mother's gentle hands, teaching her to grind roots, to crush petals, to press oils. She remembered the scent of lavender oil warming over the fire, the glow of candlelight bouncing along stone walls, and the quiet pride she had felt when her first remedies soothed a fevered villager. Each memory was a gentle note, a soft chord in the song of her life. By midday, she reached a small copse of trees where sunlight spilled through in golden streams. She stopped here, setting down her bundle and closing her eyes. The soft hum of bees and the distant murmur of a brook created a symphony of serenity. In this space, she practiced the art her mother had taught her, breathing deeply, letting the scents of lavender, sage, and mint fill her senses, and guiding herself into a calm, lucid mindfulness. She felt the tension of leaving her village slip away, replaced with a quiet, steady resolve. As the afternoon waned, the hills rose higher, and Isolde could see the outline of distant forests. Somewhere within their depths, hidden behind ancient stone walls, lay the Abbey of St. Auriel. The thought of returning brought a flutter of excitement, mingled with a touch of nervousness. Would Sister Amara remember her? Would the Abbey still hold the secrets her mother had entrusted? The questions rose and fell like gentle waves, carrying her forward along the path. When she stopped to rest, she found a patch of moss near a small stream. Sitting there, she opened the letter once more, running her fingers along the familiar handwriting. The words seemed to hum in her mind, soothing her, whispering promises of discoveries and reconnections. She let her eyes drift closed again, imagining the Abbey gardens in full bloom, the scent of flowers mingling with the quiet murmur of chanting sisters. The light changed subtly as she rose and continued her walk. Shadows lengthened across the hills, and the air grew cooler, carrying the first hint of evening. Fireflies began to flicker among the tall grass, and Isolde slowed her pace, letting their gentle glow guide her eyes and heart. In the distance, a church bell tolled once, low and sonorous, vibrating through the earth beneath her feet, reminding her of home, of rhythm, of time measured in small, beautiful moments. The road narrowed as she approached a dense patch of woods. Sunlight filtered through the canopy, creating shifting patterns on the forest floor. Each step released the scent of damp leaves, soft moss, and the faintest trace of lavender that seemed to linger around her, as if drawn from the jar she carried. She paused often to touch the bark of ancient trees, to listen to the wind, to notice the small mushrooms tucked among the roots, simple miracles that filled her with quiet wonder. By the time dusk approached, she reached a small clearing. The village she had left was now only a memory, replaced with a soft twilight world. She spread out her cloak and sat for a while, feeling the rhythm of the land, the pulse of life beneath her. Somewhere, a nightingale sang, its notes fragile and trembling, carrying a lullaby meant only for those who listened closely. As night settled fully, Isolde felt a deep calm. The journey had been slow, careful, measured, not hurried, not forced. She allowed herself to sink into the gentle rhythm of walking, breathing, and noticing, trusting that the path would carry her exactly where she needed to be. Somewhere ahead, hidden by distance and time, lay the Abbey, the gardens, and the secrets of her mother, waiting to be rediscovered. With one final breath, scented faintly of lavender and mint, Isolde closed her eyes for a moment. She let the calm of the twilight wash over her, and for the first time in many nights, she felt entirely at peace with both her past and the journey ahead. Isolde's footsteps grew softer as she approached the Abbey, the stone walls rising before her like the quiet guardians of centuries. Vines curled along the edges of the towers, and in the fading light, the windows reflected a pale orange glow from the setting sun. She could hear the faint murmur of the sisters' voices carried on the breeze, a low, soothing chant that mingled with the rustling of leaves. Each note felt like a gentle hand on her shoulder, welcoming her into this quiet, ancient world. The Abbey gate creaked as she pushed it open, a sound both old and comforting, like the turning of a familiar page. Inside, the courtyard stretched wide and calm, filled with flower beds and herbs planted carefully in neat rows. The scent of rosemary and thyme drifted in the cool evening air, mingling with the lingering smell of wood smoke from the small ovens at the back. Isolde inhaled deeply, feeling the calm of the place seep into her chest. A figure appeared from the shadows of the cloister's sister, moving slowly, her hands folded over her chest. She wore a soft brown habit, and her eyes carried a warmth that made Isolde feel immediately safe. Sister Amara. She stopped a few paces away, a gentle smile lifting her lips. Isolde, she said, her voice soft, like the touch of silk. I wondered when you would arrive. Isolde's lips curved into a small smile. I have followed the scent and my mother's memory. Sister Amara nodded, stepping closer. She left more than scents and recipes for you. She left stories, small fragments of the world as she knew it. You are ready now to learn, and perhaps to remember what you thought was lost. Together they walked slowly through the cloisters, the stones smooth beneath their feet, the air filled with the faint echo of centuries. The abbey was quiet, but alive in subtle ways. The gentle drip of water from the roof tiles, the rustle of nightbirds in the trees, the soft scurry of a small creature in the gardens. Each sound was like a soft heartbeat in the vastness of stone. Sister Amara led Isolde to a small room at the far end of the abbey. The walls were lined with jars, each containing petals, powders, and liquids that shimmered in the candlelight. The scent of lavender, sage, rose, and sandalwood drifted through the room, carrying with it a sense of calm and wonder. "This is where your mother practiced her art," Sister Amara said, her voice a gentle whisper. "And this is where you will learn to hear what the flowers say, to listen to their dreams, and to help guide them into the dreams of others." Isolde stepped closer, running her fingers along the rows of jars. Each one felt familiar, as if the warmth of her mother's hands still lingered in the glass. She picked up a small vial of rosewater and inhaled gently, closing her eyes. Images of her past, the fields of lavender, the soft laughter of her mother, the quiet village nights rose around her like a gentle tide. Sister Amara spoke again, guiding her with a voice as soft as falling snow. "The scent is more than fragrance. It is a memory. It is a song. It is the bridge between waking and sleeping, between the world and the heart." Hours passed unnoticed. Isolde worked slowly, blending a small potion of lavender, chamomile, and crushed petals, guided by the whispering instructions of Sister Amara. The scent curled around her like a warm blanket, carrying her into gentle waves of memory and imagination. Outside, the evening deepened into night, and the abbey became a cocoon of soft candlelight and faint, humming life. Later, they sat together near the open window, the cool night air brushing against their faces. The stars were faint but steady, tiny points of light in the deep velvet sky. Isolde inhaled the mingling scents of the garden below and her own small creations, letting them weave a lullaby in her mind. "Tomorrow," Sister Amara said softly, "we will begin the work your mother began. We will remember, slowly, piece by piece, and perhaps, in that remembering, you will discover more than remedies. You will discover the magic of quiet, the comfort of dreams, and the gentle power of a healed heart." Isolde nodded, feeling a wave of peace settle over her. The world outside seemed distant now, yet safe, as if it were merely a breath away. She lay down on a simple bed, the scent of herbs and flowers drifting over her, and allowed herself to drift fully into sleep. The last thought in her mind was of lavender fields stretching beneath a gentle sunset, and the faintest memory of her mother's soft voice saying, "Follow the fragrance, my child." And in the silence of the abbey, with stone walls that had held centuries of whispers, Isolde finally slept. The morning sun slipped quietly through the tall, narrow windows of the abbey, brushing the stone walls with soft gold. Isolde woke slowly, wrapped in the lingering scent of lavender and chamomile, feeling as though the world outside had softened into a gentle dream. She rose and dressed in a simple linen gown, the fabric whispering against her skin as she moved, and stepped barefoot across the cool stone floor toward the garden. The abbey garden was a hidden treasure. Each row of herbs seemed to hum with life mint, glimmering with dew, thyme standing sturdy in the soft breeze, and lavender stretching tall, its violet tips nodding gently in the morning light. Bees drifted lazily from flower to flower, and a faint rustle of leaves whispered secrets to anyone who would listen. Isolde inhaled deeply, letting the scents swirl around her and calm the quiet tension that had lingered since her journey began. Sister Amara appeared behind her, moving with the same deliberate calm that made every motion feel like part of a gentle ritual. "Today," she said softly, "you will begin to understand the language of the herbs themselves. Each has a memory, a story, a whisper. Your mother knew how to listen. It is time you try as well." Isolde knelt among the rows of plants, running her fingers over soft leaves and delicate petals. She closed her eyes and breathed in slowly, letting the scents guide her mind. Lavender brought the memory of her mother's hands, worn but tender, crushing flowers over a glowing hearth. Chamomile reminded her of warm afternoons, the sun slipping through the windows as she mixed powders and liquids in tiny jars. Mint carried the faintest laughter of villagers who had trusted her mother with their worries. Sister Amara handed her a small wooden box filled with folded notes, each one inscribed with tiny symbols and words in her mother's handwriting. "She left messages for you, hidden in plain sight," she whispered. "Some are simple, some mysterious. They will teach you patience and attention, and they will guide your heart." Isolde opened the first note. It was a delicate square of paper, scented faintly of roses, the edges curling like old leaves. The writing instructed her to crush 3 leaves of sage and place them beneath her pillow at night to dream clearly. As she followed the instructions, a warm, tingling calm spread through her chest, as if the herbs themselves were speaking directly to her, reassuring her that she was on the right path. The day passed slowly, measured by gentle tasks, gathering herbs, blending small remedies, and deciphering the hidden messages her mother had left. Each note revealed a tiny secret of the craft: how to balance scent and memory, how to guide a dream, how to turn a simple mixture of flowers into a source of quiet comfort. Isolde worked with patient care, aware of the faint, steady pulse of life around her, the soft drip of water from the abbey roof, the distant caw of a crow, the hum of bees as they moved from bloom to bloom. By late afternoon, she discovered a narrow path behind the garden, almost hidden by a high wall of ivy. Following it slowly, she found a small stone alcove where her mother had kept her most secret ingredients: dried petals, crushed pearls, and powdered honey, carefully labeled in her elegant hand. The faint scent of rosewater lingered here, soft as a sigh. Isolde closed her eyes, letting the gentle memory wash over her, imagining her mother at this very spot, hands moving with quiet grace. A gentle breeze stirred, carrying whispers of lavender and sage through the alcove. Isolde inhaled deeply and felt a wave of calm, the sort that made the edges of worry and fatigue blur into softness. She realized that each step she took in learning her mother's craft was not only a way to remember, but also a way to heal herself. The world could feel heavy, even in this peaceful medieval village, but in the soft rhythm of herbs and scents, she found a quiet sanctuary. As dusk fell, Isolde returned to the abbey's stone halls, carrying a small bundle of herbs and a single note she had found tucked under a jar. Sister Amara awaited her, sitting quietly by the candlelight, as though she had been expecting Isolde's discoveries. "You are beginning to hear them," Sister Amara whispered, gesturing toward the herbs in Isolde's hands. "The plants, the scents, even the quiet of the village. they speak to those who listen. And you, my child, are learning to hear. In time, you will not only heal, but you will help others drift gently into dreams, as your mother did before you. Night wrapped the abbey in soft velvet darkness, dotted with tiny points of starlight. Isolde lay down on her bed, the herbs close beside her, the notes of her mother's handwriting resting gently under her hand. She breathed in the mingling scents, felt the warmth of candlelight on her skin, and let the calm of the garden, the abbey, and her mother's memory carry her into sleep. And in that gentle sleep, the world became softer, the edges of worry faded, and the whispering herbs sang her into a night of dreams, filled with lavender fields, stone walls bathed in golden light, and the quiet, comforting presence of those who had come before. Night had settled fully over the abbey, wrapping the stone walls in a quiet darkness that felt warm and protective. The moon cast a pale silver light through the tall windows, painting soft, moving patterns on the wooden floors. Isolde lay awake for a while, listening to the gentle sounds of the abbey at night, the soft creak of a shutter swinging in the breeze, the distant drip of water from the roof, and the faint hum of nocturnal creatures moving quietly in the gardens. Each sound was a lullaby, pulling her further into calm. Unable to resist, she rose quietly and moved toward the herb room. The candlelight flickered softly, casting dancing shadows across the walls lined with jars and dried plants. The air smelled faintly of sage, lavender, and the subtle sweetness of dried roses. She ran her fingers along the rows of jars, reading the labels with her mother's delicate handwriting, and felt the soothing connection of generations of quiet care. A small note rested under a jar of crushed pearls. She unfolded it carefully and read her mother's soft instructions for dreams that carry comfort. Mix rose, honey, and a pinch of dried chamomile. Place beneath the pillow and let the night speak. The words seemed to hum with a gentle power, and Isolde could almost hear her mother whispering beside her. In the quiet of the abbey, she began mixing the ingredients, carefully crushing the petals and honey together until they smelled like a summer evening, soft and warm. The motion was slow and rhythmic, each stir and press a meditation, and soon the faint scent wrapped around her like a comforting shawl. She inhaled it deeply and felt the tension in her shoulders dissolve. As she worked, she noticed something unusual, a soft glow near the corner of the room. Curious but unafraid, she approached, discovering a tiny crack in the stone wall where moonlight spilled in. Behind it, a narrow passage led to a forgotten part of the abbey. The air was cooler here, scented faintly of earth and moss, and a hush fell over her, the kind of hush that encourages careful listening. Isolde stepped slowly into the passage, her bare feet brushing against the smooth, worn stones. The corridor curved gently, leading her past alcoves filled with old tools, forgotten jars, and tiny carvings in the walls, small symbols that seemed to wink in the moonlight. It was as though the abbey itself had been waiting for her to discover these hidden corners, keeping its quiet stories safe until the right person came. At the end of the passage, she found a small room, almost hidden. The space smelled faintly of lavender and parchment, and inside rested a wooden chest bound with soft leather straps. Isolde knelt slowly, running her fingers across the worn surface, feeling the pulse of history beneath her touch. Opening it gently, she discovered bundles of her mother's old notes, jars of rare petals, and tiny vials of glowing powders she had never seen before. Each object felt like a secret meant to be discovered in silence. Isolde picked up a small vial of crushed blue flowers, inhaling its delicate scent and closing her eyes. Memories of her childhood in the village came softly, her mother teaching her the names of herbs, showing her how to listen to the wind, the stream, and even the faintest rustle of leaves. A wave of warmth spread through her chest, and she whispered softly, "I understand now." The night deepened around her, carrying a quiet magic. Somewhere in the abbey, a sister's voice hummed a soft tune, and the walls seemed to echo it gently. Isolde felt connected to the centuries of caretakers, healers, and quiet dreamers who had walked these halls before her. She arranged a few of the jars on a shelf, carefully setting aside the ones she would study next, letting the abbey feel lived in and remembered once again. Eventually, she returned to her small bed near the window, the soft scent of lavender still lingering in the air. She placed a tiny jar of rose and chamomile beside her pillow, following her mother's instructions, and lay down, letting the gentle hum of the abbey lull her into sleep. The moonlight cast silver patterns across her face, and she drifted into dreams filled with soft hills, fragrant gardens, and the whispering presence of her mother guiding her hand. In this calm, quiet world, the line between waking and dreaming blurred, and Isolde felt a deep, encompassing peace. The abbey, the village, and the centuries of quiet magic wrapped around her, carrying her gently through the night, one soft, serene breath at a time. The morning light seeped softly into the abbey, painting the stone floors in pale gold and warming the quiet rooms with a gentle glow. Isolde rose slowly, savoring the calm that seemed to settle in every corner, and dressed in her linen gown, the fabric brushing softly against her skin. She carried a small basket, ready to gather fresh herbs from the garden before anyone else stirred. The garden was peaceful in the early hours, dew clinging to the leaves and petals like tiny jewels. Lavender swayed gently in the breeze. Rosemary and sage released their subtle fragrances, and the soft hum of bees filled the air. Isolde moved slowly, touching each plant with a reverence that felt like a quiet conversation. The herbs seemed to respond, their scents deepening as if recognizing the hands that had once tended them so lovingly. Sister Amara appeared quietly at the edge of the garden, holding a small bundle of freshly cut chamomile. "Today," she whispered, her voice like a soft bell, "you will prepare your first remedies for the villagers. They do not know yet, but they will come, and they will need your care." Isolde nodded, feeling a gentle flutter of nervousness mixed with excitement. She had spent long nights learning her mother's secrets, decoding her messages, and discovering hidden jars and vials. But this was the first time she would step into the wider world with those skills. The first visitor arrived just as the sun rose higher, spilling warm light over the cobblestones of the village outside the abbey gates. A young boy, pale and weary, carried a scraped knee from a fall in the nearby forest. Isolde greeted him with a soft smile, kneeling to examine the wound. She cleaned it gently, using water infused with herbs and a touch of honey, and whispered calming words, the way her mother had taught her, letting the boy's anxiety melt into the quiet rhythm of her voice. The boy's mother lingered nearby, watching quietly, fascinated by the softness of Isolde's movements and the soothing calm she brought to her child. "How do you do it?" she asked softly, not wanting to startle the fragile moment. Isolde only smiled and held up a small bundle of chamomile and lavender. "It is the plants," she whispered, "and a little memory of someone who loved them very much." Word spread gently through the village as the day unfolded. Villagers arrived with small ailments and quiet worries. A woman with a headache soothed by a mixture of rosewater and mint. An elderly man with aching joints eased by a warm poultice of sage and rosemary. My children who had nightmares soothed by the subtle scent of chamomile tucked beneath their pillows. With each act, Isolde felt the gentle pulse of her mother's guidance flowing through her hands. Between visits, she wandered the abbey, inhaling the familiar scents of her mother's jars and the fresh herbs in the garden. She found a quiet alcove where sunlight spilled in through a tiny window, illuminating a row of vials filled with rare powders. Picking one up, she inhaled the faint fragrance of crushed petals and pearl dust, feeling a warmth that made her chest thrum gently. This small, secret world of scents and powders was hers to explore, to learn, and to pass on. Evenings were her favorite time. The villagers had returned home, the garden was quiet, and the abbey seemed to exhale, settling into its own gentle rhythm. She would sit near the hearth, blending herbs into soft remedies, listening to the crackle of the fire, and feeling the weight of history pressing softly around her. In those moments, she was not only practicing her mother's craft, she was weaving herself into it, thread by delicate thread, like petals pressed between pages of an ancient book. One evening, as the sun set in a wash of pink and gold, a gentle knock echoed at her door. She opened it to find an elderly woman from the village, carrying a small, worn journal. "I believe this belonged to your mother," the woman said softly. "She said it would help guide the one who could hear the herbs." Isolde accepted it with reverent hands. The pages were filled with careful notes, sketches of plants, and soft instructions for blending scents that could soothe fear, sadness, and sleepless nights. As she turned each page, she felt the whisper of her mother's presence beside her, a comforting companion on this quiet path of discovery. That night she lay in bed, the gentle scent of herbs filling the air. She held the journal close and allowed herself to drift into sleep, dreaming of gardens heavy with flowers, of stone walls warm with candlelight, and of the soft, unbroken thread connecting her past, her present, and the world she was quietly healing. The morning air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of dew-soaked herbs and the soft rustle of leaves in the village square. Isolde walked slowly along the cobblestones, carrying a small bundle of chamomile and lavender for the morning remedies. The village was waking in soft rhythms, chickens calling to one another, a baker opening his door to release the warm smell of fresh bread, and the gentle clatter of a cart rolling over stone. Each sound felt like a soft heartbeat on a quiet day. As she reached the square, a gentle melody floated through the air, carried by the strings of a traveling bard. He moved slowly, deliberately, his voice low and calm as he sang stories of distant lands, noble knights, and hidden treasures. The tune was soothing, the kind of music that made the edges of the world soften and the mind feel as if it could drift gently on a river of sound. The bard noticed Isolde standing among the villagers and smiled softly, bowing his head. "Good healer," he said, in a voice like velvet, "I hear whispers of your gentle work. I come with stories, but perhaps I might learn from yours as well." Curious, Isolde invited him to sit by the abbey's fountain, the cool water murmuring quietly beneath them. As he told his tales, she noticed the way his stories were punctuated by the soft hum of distant memories, the kind of history that only a bard who truly listened could carry. And as he spoke, She realized some of his songs hinted at old village secrets, stories her mother had never shared but which seemed to brush against her consciousness like faint echoes. After the bard had rested, Isolde led him to the herb garden, showing him the soft rows of lavender, mint, and sage, and letting him inhale the gentle fragrances. She spoke softly of the hidden properties of the plants, how each could soothe a mind, a heart, or even carry dreams through the night. The bard listened quietly, taking in each word like a soft note of music, and shared tales of travelers who had once sought rare herbs to ease weariness on long roads. Later, as dusk fell, the bard performed a story of a knight lost in a forest, guided by the gentle glow of a hidden herb glade. Isolde felt her eyes grow heavy, lulled by the calm cadence of his voice, the flicker of candlelight on the abbey walls, and the quiet scents of chamomile and rose lingering around her. It was as though the story and the herbs worked together, weaving a cocoon of serenity around her, encouraging her mind to drift. That night, as she returned to her small bed near the window, the memory of the bard's gentle music lingered, blending with the soft scents of her herbs. She placed a jar of lavender under her pillow and opened her mother's journal once more, letting the carefully drawn notes and sketches guide her into the quiet realm of dreams. As sleep embraced her, she imagined herself wandering softly through fields of herbs, each plant whispering secrets of the past and promises for the future. The village, the abbey, and even the wandering bard seemed to exist in a single, harmonious rhythm, carrying her deeper into gentle dreams where every sound, every scent, and every soft memory was a lullaby meant just for her. The morning dawned soft and pale, the sun spilling over the village rooftops in a delicate wash of gold and rose. Isolde wandered slowly through the abbey's herb garden, letting her fingers trail over dewy leaves. Each plant glistened with droplets of water, reflecting the light like tiny, quiet jewels. The air smelled faintly of rosemary and sage, mingling with the sweetness of early morning roses. As she tended her herbs, she noticed something unusual at the far corner of the garden, a small patch of earth that seemed slightly disturbed, as if something had been buried there long ago. Her heart fluttered gently with curiosity, tempered by a calm patience that came from years of listening to the quiet whispers of plants and stone. Kneeling carefully, she brushed away the soil and found a small, intricately carved box, its wood worn smooth by time. Inside rested tiny vials of powdered petals, fragments of pearl, and carefully pressed flowers, each labeled in her mother's delicate hand. Alongside them lay a folded note, its ink faded but legible. For the one who seeks with a calm heart, every plant, every stone, and every breath carries memory. Learn from them, and let the village sleep softly. Isolde felt a gentle warmth in her chest, as though her mother were kneeling beside her, whispering encouragement. She gathered the contents of the box and carried them into the herb room, laying them out on the wooden table. Each vial smelled faintly of flowers, honey, and a whisper of earth, a reminder that healing was both delicate and quietly powerful. Throughout the day, villagers came seeking remedies, drawn by the soft reputation of Isolde's gentle care. A mother brought her shivering child, soothed with a tea of chamomile and honey. An elderly man asked for a balm to ease his stiff joints, treated with a poultice of sage and crushed rose petals. Each visit was slow, intentional, and peaceful, allowing the rhythm of the day to flow like a gentle river. As evening approached, Isolde sat by the hearth, arranging the new herbs and powders she had discovered. The flickering candlelight cast long soft shadows on the stone walls, and the quiet crackle of the fire created a lullaby of warmth. She opened her mother's journal once more, tracing her fingers along the sketches of rare plants and faint notes on sleeping herbs. Each line, each small drawing, felt like a message sent across time, meant to guide her hand and calm her heart. Outside, the wind rustled through the trees in the village, a gentle shushing sound that seemed to say, "Rest, all is well." Isolde leaned back, inhaling the soft, layered scents of lavender, rose, and sage. She closed her eyes and imagined herself walking slowly through the abbey gardens at night, dew soaking her feet, petals brushing against her fingertips, and moonlight gliding over the stone paths. In that quiet, timeless place, she felt a connection to the generations of women who had tended herbs, whispered to the sick, and breathed calm into a world that often moved too quickly. She felt the rhythm of her own heart, slow, syncing with the pulse of the village, the abbey, and the ancient stones that had witnessed centuries of gentle care. When she finally lay down in her small bed, the scent of rose and chamomile resting beside her pillow, she felt completely at peace. The village hummed softly outside, the fire crackled gently, and her mother's words seemed to linger in the air. Learn, care, and let the world sleep softly. With each slow, deliberate breath, Isolde drifted into dreams of quiet gardens, glowing moonlight, and the gentle embrace of history. Her mind cradled in the serene comfort of the medieval world she loved so deeply. The day unfolded with a soft, golden light, brushing the village rooftops and the abbey walls in gentle warmth. Birds chirped quietly among the branches, their songs delicate threads of melody that wove through the air like soft whispers. Isolde moved slowly among the villagers, offering small remedies and listening to their murmured stories. Each interaction was unhurried, a quiet exchange of trust and calm, like petals falling softly on a still pond. By late afternoon, a subtle excitement stirred through the village. The harvest season was approaching, and the villagers had decided to hold a small celebration in the square. There were no loud drums or raucous shouting only, the gentle flicker of lanterns, the soft scent of baked bread and honey, and the murmur of voices wrapped in kindness. Isolde prepared tiny sachets of lavender and chamomile, scattering them near the lanterns so that their scent would drift through the evening air like a quiet lullaby. The traveling bard returned, stringing together a calm tune that moved slowly through the crowd. Children sat cross-legged on the soft grass, their eyes heavy with curiosity and the serenity of the moment. Elderly villagers smiled, leaning gently on walking sticks, inhaling the faint fragrance of herbs and flowers that mingled with the crisp autumn air. Isolde felt her heart expand in quiet contentment, seeing her mother's lessons reflected in the gentle smiles around her. Later, she walked through the abbey garden, now bathed in the soft glow of lanterns and moonlight. Each leaf, each stone, each delicate flower seemed to hum with memory, as though acknowledging her care. She paused beside the patch of earth where she had discovered her mother's hidden box, gently touching the soil, as if to thank it for keeping secrets safe for so many years. As the evening deepened, Isolde returned to her apothecary room. The jars and vials shimmered in the candlelight, their colors muted but rich, like tiny pools of calm energy. She carefully arranged the herbs she had gathered that day, inhaling the mingling scents of rose, lavender, sage, and chamomile. Each aroma seemed to whisper comfort and serenity, wrapping her senses in a warm, protective hug. When the village had grown quiet, Isolde finally climbed into her small bed, the air around her heavy with soft scents that spoke of earth, flowers, and distant memories. She placed a sachet of chamomile beneath her pillow and tucked the journal beside her, letting her mother's handwriting guide her thoughts into gentle reflection. The flicker of a single candle cast shadows that danced softly on the walls, and the distant hum of the village at rest became a gentle rhythm, like a heartbeat lulling her toward sleep. Isolde closed her eyes and inhaled deeply, imagining herself drifting through the gardens she loved, stepping lightly over stone paths glowing in moonlight, and feeling the warmth of centuries of care surrounding her. Her mind wandered slowly through quiet memories of her mother, the subtle lessons of herbs, and the gentle presence of villagers and friends. Each breath, each thought, each soft memory became a lullaby, carrying her deeper into serenity. And as sleep finally embraced her, the abbey, the village, and the quiet medieval world she cherished seemed to exhale alongside her. Every leaf, every stone, and every lingering scent of rose and chamomile conspired to create a perfect, unbroken calm. In that tranquil night, Isolde dreamed softly of flowers, glowing lanterns, whispered songs, and the gentle continuity of life and care. The world around her was hushed, peaceful, and timeless, and she rested completely, wrapped in the warmth of home, memory, and the quiet magic of the medieval apothecary she loved so dearly. The village had settled into its evening calm, the cobblestone streets washed in the soft glow of lanterns that flickered like tiny stars. The wind moved lazily through the trees, rustling leaves in a soothing whisper, and the faint scent of herbs and wood smoke lingered in the air. Isolde walked slowly through the square, noticing how the quiet rhythms of the village seemed to breathe alongside her. Each step was measured, deliberate, as if she were walking through a living lullaby. She paused near the fountain at the center of the square, listening to the gentle trickle of water as it filled the basin, a soft, steady song that seemed to echo the beating of her own heart. She inhaled deeply, letting the faint aroma of rosemary, sage, and rosewater mingle with the crisp night air. The world felt suspended in this quiet, timeless moment, and she felt her shoulders release tension she hadn't even noticed she carried. As she wandered, her mind drifted back through memories of her childhood in the abbey, learning from her mother. She remembered the long, golden afternoons spent pressing flowers between parchment, blending powders into delicate mixtures, and inhaling the soft, intoxicating fragrance of petals crushed in her hands. Her mother's voice had always been calm, deliberate, like a gentle stream, teaching her not just to heal the body, but to soothe the spirit. Each lesson felt like a small ripple, spreading outward and connecting her to a lineage of care and quiet wisdom. That evening, a small group of villagers had gathered near the abbey garden to watch the first stars appear in the velvet night sky. Children rested on their mothers' laps, eyes heavy with sleep, while elders leaned quietly on wooden staff, savoring the soft comfort of the moment. Isolde brought out her small jar of dried lavender, sprinkling a few delicate petals into the air. The fragrance mingled with the scent of the earth and the distant wood smoke, curling around the listeners like a gentle sigh, drawing soft smiles and half-closed eyes. Later, she returned to her apothecary room, her hands brushing over the worn wooden shelves lined with jars, powders, and pressed flowers. Each one held a memory, a whisper of someone long gone, yet alive in scent and touch. She paused to light a single candle, the flame flickering softly against the stone walls, casting shadows that danced like ancient spirits of care. Her fingers lingered on a vial of crushed rose petals, inhaling the faint sweetness and thinking of her mother's quiet voice, guiding her even now. In the stillness, Isolde allowed herself to reflect on the journey that had brought her here, the small, hidden corners of the abbey where she had practiced alone, the mysterious box of powders she had discovered, the traveling bard who brought stories of faraway lands and whispered connections to the past. Each moment had been gentle and deliberate, shaping her hands, her mind, and her heart. She realized that healing was not only in the herbs, but in the rhythm of daily life, in noticing the small details, and in the soft, unhurried act of care. Night deepened. Outside, the village grew hushed. The only sound, a distant owl and the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze. Isolde climbed into her small bed, pulling a linen blanket close around her shoulders. She placed a sachet of chamomile and lavender beneath her pillow and opened her mother's journal, tracing the delicate illustrations of petals and powders. The gentle curves of her mother's handwriting felt like a lullaby, guiding her thoughts slowly toward dream-filled rest. As her eyelids grew heavy, she imagined herself walking through the moonlit herb garden, dew cool beneath her feet, petals brushing softly against her hands, and the distant sound of the village lullabying itself into sleep. Every inhalation carried the faint, comforting scent of sage, rose, and lavender, and each exhalation released worry, leaving only calm. She thought of the villagers, sleeping soundly in their homes, wrapped in the quiet security of the medieval village she loved so dearly. And finally, with the candle flickering low, the herbs whispering from their jars, and the soft echoes of the bard's melody still lingering in her mind, Isolde surrendered fully to sleep. Her breath slowed, her thoughts softened, and she drifted into dreams of glowing moonlight, fragrant gardens, and centuries of gentle, healing care. In that timeless, serene moment, the world outside seemed to pause, holding her in the warm, soothing embrace of night. The dawn broke slowly, spilling soft, pearly light over the village rooftops. The air smelled faintly of damp earth and newly blossomed herbs, carrying the quiet promise of another gentle day. Isolde stepped outside her apothecary, the wooden door creaking softly behind her, and felt the dew brushing her ankles as she walked toward the abbey garden. Every leaf shimmered as if holding a tiny piece of the morning sun, and she inhaled deeply, letting the scent of sage and lavender fill her lungs like a warm, calm hug. In the quiet corners of the garden, little things caught her eye. Single bee hovering lazily over a lavender bloom, a spider weaving its delicate web in the morning light, the soft shimmer of dew on a patch of chamomile. Isolde moved among them with gentle care, whispering encouragement to the plants, as her mother had taught her. She had learned that healing was not just in the powders or teas, but in noticing these small, almost imperceptible details, and in letting life grow at its own soft rhythm. A soft knock on the apothecary door made her pause. It was Marguerite, the village midwife, carrying a basket of fresh herbs and a quiet smile. "Good morning, Isolde," she said in a hushed tone, careful not to disturb the gentle peace of the day. "I thought you might like some of these for your preparations." Inside the basket were sprigs of thyme, mint, and lemon balm, their fragrances mingling softly in the morning air. They settled together near the stone fountain, exchanging quiet words while the water murmured gently between them. Marguerite shared stories of mothers and children, of slow afternoons filled with the soft rhythm of care. Isolde listened, inhaling the mingling scents and feeling a deep sense of connection. She realized that even small acts like the careful bundling of herbs, the whispered encouragements, and the steady hands guiding a child through illness carried the same quiet magic she had learned from her mother. As the morning deepened, villagers began their gentle routines. A baker carried trays of warm bread out into the square, the aroma drifting lazily through the narrow streets. Children played quietly along the cobblestones, their laughter soft and rhythmic, blending into the murmurs of the wind. Isolde's attention wandered to the old well at the center of the square. Remembering how her mother had once told her that even water could carry healing if drawn with care and intention, she smiled softly, feeling the pulse of the village in every stone, every leaf, every breath of air. In the late afternoon, Isolde returned to the apothecary, carrying bundles of herbs to crush and mix into teas, poultices, and powders. She worked slowly, deliberately, listening to the soft scratching of her knife against wood, the gentle clink of glass jars, and the faint sigh of the wind through the open window. Each motion became a meditation, a soothing rhythm that seemed to echo the heartbeat of the medieval village itself. When evening fell, the first stars appeared in the sky, tiny points of silver suspended in the deepening blue. The village was hushed. The only sounds, the faint rustle of leaves and the occasional distant bark of a dog. Isolde placed small jars of lavender and chamomile on her windowsill, letting their scent drift softly into the night. She lit a single candle, its flame flickering gently against the stone walls, and settled into her chair with her mother's journal open on her lap. As she traced the delicate handwriting, she remembered long golden afternoons of learning, of blending powders, crushing petals, and listening to the soft murmurs of the abbey. The memories wrapped around her like a blanket, each one a gentle note in the quiet melody of her life. Outside, the village breathed in unison, every chimney, every stone, every tree joining in a soft chorus of calm and stillness. Finally, she rose, placing the journal carefully on the table, and climbed into her bed. The blankets smelled faintly of lavender and rose, and the cool night air carried a soft whisper of sage. She closed her eyes, imagining herself wandering through moonlit gardens, soft petals brushing her fingertips, the distant sound of water trickling in the fountain, and the gentle presence of generations who had tended herbs, whispered to the sick, and cared for life in slow, deliberate harmony. And as she exhaled, she let herself drift, fully and completely, into the serene embrace of sleep. The village, the abbey, the garden, and every soft sound and scent around her became a gentle lullaby, cradling her mind, body, and spirit. Every breath, every rustle, every distant murmur carried her deeper into dreams, soft and endless, wrapped in the comforting, timeless world of the medieval apothecary she loved so dearly. The night had grown quiet, the village bathed in silver light as the moon rose slowly above the rooftops. Its glow spilled over the cobblestones, softening their edges, and touched the ivy climbing the abbey walls, making the leaves shimmer faintly in the calm air. Isolde stepped outside, barefoot on the cool stones, letting the soft chill brush against her ankles. Each step was deliberate, a slow rhythm in tune with the whispering of the night. She wandered toward the small garden at the edge of the abbey, where she often felt closest to her mother's memory. Shadows shifted gently under the moonlight, and the soft rustle of leaves sounded almost like hushed whispers. Isolde's fingers brushed over petals, dew-cool and delicate, and she imagined that each flower carried a story from the past. A curious hush seemed to hang over the garden, and though the world was quiet, it felt alive with secrets waiting to be discovered. In the corner of the garden, near an old stone wall, she noticed a faint glimmer. Kneeling down, she discovered a tiny vial, half buried in the soil, its glass catching the moonlight. Inside was a faintly shimmering powder, unlike anything she had seen before, pale as starlight. Isolde held it carefully, inhaling its subtle, soothing fragrance. There was a trace of rose, lavender, and something she could not name, a scent that made the night feel deeper, richer, more magical. She remembered the stories her mother used to tell about the rarest herbs, those that grew only in secret places, tended by moonlight. Could this be one of them, she wondered, her pulse slowing in calm anticipation. She placed the vial carefully in her apron pocket, promising herself to explore its secrets with patience, as her mother had taught her. Even in the mystery, there was comforter, quiet assurance that discovery could be gentle, and that the world held wonders meant to be savored slowly. As she walked back toward the village square, Isolde passed the windows of her neighbors' homes. Light glimmered softly through the panes, revealing quiet scenes: a child hugging a pillow, a mother arranging herbs on the windowsill, an elderly man rocking gently in his chair. The village felt alive in its sleep, a delicate tapestry of comfort and quiet routine. Every home, every candle, every whisper of wind became part of the lullaby that carried her toward her own rest. Returning to her apothecary, she set the new vial on the shelf beside jars of crushed petals, powdered pearls, and dried lavender. The scent filled the room softly, curling around her senses like a quiet, protective hug. She paused by the window, gazing at the stars above, and imagined the generations of healers who had walked these same paths, whispered to the same plants, and breathed the same calming air. The past and present intertwined seamlessly, forming a delicate, gentle bridge between memory and now. Her thoughts wandered to her earliest days, when she had been a child of the abbey, following her mother through quiet corridors, listening to the distant chants of monks, and learning the language of herbs. Those long, golden afternoons had shaped her in ways she only now fully understood: the patience, the attention to detail, and the reverence for life in all its quiet forms. Every powder mixed, every leaf pressed, every tiny flower smelled and touched had been a lesson in calm, a preparation for the life she now led. Finally, she climbed into her bed, tucking the soft linen around her shoulders and placing a sachet of chamomile and lavender under her pillow. The faint scent of herbs mingled with the cool night air, drifting through the window, curling softly around her senses. She closed her eyes, feeling the village, the garden, and the abbey cradle her in warmth. Her mind drifted gently over the moonlit paths she had walked, the soft whispers of plants, the quiet laughter of children, and the soothing rhythm of daily life. And as sleep embraced her, Isolde felt a profound serenity. The village rested in unbroken calm. The herbs whispered softly from their jars. The distant fountain murmured its gentle lullaby, and the moonlight painted silver threads across the cobblestones. Each breath carried her deeper into dreams filled with glowing gardens, fragrant flowers, soft lantern light, and the gentle pulse of life in the medieval world she loved so dearly. In this timeless night, all was peace, and every secret of the garden, every memory of her mother, and every quiet step in the village converged to hold her safely in sleep. The first light of dawn seeped softly through the narrow slits of the apothecary window, painting the stone walls in gentle hues of gold and rose. Outside, the village was just beginning to stir, though the movements were slow, careful, like the unfolding of a delicate flower. Isolde stretched lightly, the linen sheets whispering against her skin, and took a moment to breathe in the crisp, calm air. She could hear the faint bleat of a goat from a distant yard and the soft patter of someone sweeping the cobblestones nearby. Pulling on a woolen cloak, she stepped into the morning. The scent of dew-soaked earth mingled with lavender and thyme from her garden, curling into the cool air like a soft sigh. Birds chirped softly from the rooftops and the edges of the abbey gardens, each note delicate, almost like a whisper meant to ease the listener into awareness rather than jolt them awake. She wandered down the narrow streets, her footsteps echoing gently, observing the sleepy routines of her neighbors. Near the central well, she found the baker kneeling quietly, his hands dusted with flour as he shaped the morning bread. The aroma of fresh loaves mingled with the scent of wet stone and herbs, creating a soft, grounding tapestry that seemed to embrace the entire village. The baker offered a small nod, a shared smile, and Isolde felt warmth travel through her chest. Even the smallest gestures in this medieval village carried a quiet kindness, a soft reassurance that life, in its slow rhythm, was gentle and safe. As she returned to her apothecary, she noticed a young girl peering curiously into the garden gate. Isolde knelt beside her, her voice low and tender, describing the dew-drenched petals, the faint fragrance of crushed herbs, and the way sunlight sparkled on the leaves. She spoke slowly, deliberately, allowing the child's imagination to wander along each path of the garden, tracing each leaf, imagining the whispers of centuries of healers who had walked these same grounds. The girl's eyes grew wide with wonder, and Isolde felt a soft flutter of connection, the knowledge that the calm care she had inherited was quietly passing on to another soul. Inside the apothecary, the soft scent of herbs filled every corner. Isolde took the tiny vial she had found in the moonlit garden, turning it over in her hands as sunlight touched the glass, revealing a shimmer of pale starlight within. She recalled her mother's stories of secret herbs, grown only in hidden corners, tended at night, and used to heal ailments that could not be cured with ordinary plants. There was a gentle mystery here, one that promised slow discovery, quiet exploration, and the gentle thrill of knowing something extraordinary yet safe. Throughout the morning, villagers drifted in and out, each visit soft and deliberate. A mother brought a child with a mild fever, resting the small bundle in Isolde's lap while she prepared a calming infusion of chamomile and rose petals. The child's eyelids fluttered, the warmth of her hands and the soothing scent drawing sleep and ease. An elderly man, carrying a walking stick and leaning on slow steps, requested a balm for his stiff joints. Isolde crushed fresh thyme and lavender, letting the fragrance curl around them like a protective veil. Every motion was slow, careful, mindful, and the world felt contained within the soft rhythms of care. By midday, the sun had risen higher, casting gentle light into the corners of the stone apothecary. Dust motes floated lazily in the beams, drifting like tiny stars frozen in time. Isolde paused to watch them, inhaling the mingling scents of crushed petals, honey, and herbs. The quiet presence of life in this room, the jars, the powders, the soft scribbles of her mother's old journal, felt like a heartbeat of its own. She touched the pages, tracing the careful sketches of herbs, pressed flowers, and small handwritten notes. Each mark was a whisper from the past, a lullaby of knowledge and care that wrapped around her heart like a warm blanket. As the afternoon sun began to tilt toward the west, Isolde returned to the garden. She knelt by the tiny bed of chamomile, brushing dew from the petals with the tips of her fingers. The vial she had found in the moonlight rested beside her, and she imagined the gentle stories it might hold, secrets of night blooms, whispers of distant forests, and the quiet songs of plants grown with patient care. She breathed slowly, letting the fragrance fill her lungs, feeling the village, the abbey, and the gentle pulse of life all converge in a soft harmony around her. Evening approached, and the village once again softened into the hush of twilight. Lanterns were lit along the streets, flickering like tiny stars in the cobblestone shadows. Isolde walked slowly, inhaling the mingled scent of herbs, baked bread, and wood smoke, each step a lullaby in itself. In her mind, she traced the lives of her neighbors, the gentle rhythm of their days, and the quiet magic of the medieval village she called home. And as the candlelight flickered in the apothecary, the scent of lavender curling around her, she knew that the calm, deliberate, tender life she led was itself the truest kind of magic. Finally, she lay in her bed, the soft linen wrapping around her, and let herself drift. The gentle rustle of leaves, the distant whisper of water, the faint hum of herbs in their jars, all coalesced into a tender lullaby. Her breath slowed, her mind softened, and she imagined walking through moonlit gardens, past the soft glow of lanterns, tracing the shimmering powder in her vial, and feeling the watchful presence of her mother guiding her through the quiet, timeless embrace of the medieval village. And in that gentle, serene night, she let sleep carry her, soft and unbroken, into dreams filled with quiet mysteries, fragrant herbs, and the eternal calm of a world lived slowly, carefully, and with love. The night had deepened into a velvet hush, the sky a wide, endless canvas of stars. The village lay wrapped in silver shadows, rooftops soft against the dark, narrow streets, and the faint flicker of lanterns, glowing like tiny lanterned fireflies. Isolde sat quietly by her window, the faint scent of chamomile and lavender curling around her, mingling with the gentle aroma of honey and rose petals from her work. Her hands rested on her lap as she remembered her earliest days in the abbey, when she had wandered barefoot through the gardens, trailing her fingers along the soft moss and petals, listening to the whispers of the wind and feeling the quiet magic of life unfold around her. She remembered her mother's voice, gentle and steady, teaching her that every herb, every powder, every whisper of care held the power to soothe both body and spirit. And in that memory, Isolde felt the slow, enduring pulse of love and wisdom that had guided her to this calm moment. Outside, the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze made the world feel alive, yet hushed, as if it were leaning close to listen. A distant owl hooted once, softly, and the gentle murmur of the fountain in the square added a steady, reassuring rhythm. Each sound was a note in the village's lullaby, a soft melody of life moving slowly, deliberately, and tenderly. Isolde inhaled, letting the scents, the sounds, and the soft, cool night air mingle with her own heartbeat until she felt entirely at peace. She thought of the tiny vial she had found in the moonlit garden, the shimmering powder inside a secret she would explore slowly, with patience and reverence. The mystery of it was gentle, a soft promise, rather than an urgent call. Much like the life she had built in the village, a life of small, careful acts, of tending, of noticing, and of quietly nurturing what mattered most. Every soft interaction with her neighbors had become part of a gentle rhythm, a world held in quiet balance. Isolde stood, walking to her bed with soft, measured steps, letting her cloak brush the stone floor. She tucked herself into the linen sheets, the scent of lavender and rose petals pressing softly into her senses. Outside, the moonlight touched the rooftops and the cobblestones, casting everything in a calm, silver glow. She closed her eyes, imagining the warm, sun-dappled gardens, the whispering herbs, and the steady presence of the village around her. As sleep came, it was slow and deliberate, a gentle descent into dreams filled with moonlit walks through fragrant gardens, the soft shimmer of secret powders, and the tender care of a world that moved quietly, mindfully, and lovingly. She felt the presence of her mother in the rustle of leaves, in the faint scent of crushed petals, in the comforting rhythm of the village breathing softly around her, and in the calm embrace of that medieval night. Isolde let go completely, knowing the village, the herbs, and the generations of healers who had come before her would watch over her. The world outside was quiet, the streets soft, the lanterns glowing, and the moon tracing silver patterns on the stone. The village, her home, and the gentle magic of care and memory held her safely, rocking her into the deepest, most serene sleep. The night whispered on endless and tender, and Isolde drifted fully into dreams.